I think part of the autistic experience is constantly being misperceived and constantly feeling misunderstood. And it's kind of hard because in some ways I feel like unless you experience our brain, unless you experience the things that go on in our brain, and unless you experience the challenges that we face, I feel like it is kind of hard to grasp. It is kind of hard to understand, and maybe that's a reason why a lot of, at least it feels like a lot of neurotypical people kind of don't really realize the things that we're trying to explain to them, or don't really realize what it actually is like to live with an autistic brain. I remember, honestly, throughout my whole life, just feeling so disconnected from everyone around me, no matter how hard I tried to fit in. Even with masking, it felt like I was constantly being misunderstood. Maybe it was the word choice I would use. Maybe it was the way I would present myself socially. Maybe it was because I was different from most people around me. My interests were different. And honestly, this is something that I've struggled with for a really long time, is feeling misunderstood, because as humans, I think that we crave connection. Even as autistic humans, we still crave certain types of connection, and oftentimes it's more real connection than what we see around us in society. But it's hard to really feel that connection when you're constantly being misunderstood, and when people just don't really have the capacity to even understand you. And I think that it is important for neurotypical and non-autistic people to at least try to make an effort to understand. And there are certainly people in my life who do that, and I'm truly grateful for that. And also, with that in mind, and also, it still makes it challenging sometimes. It makes it challenging to communicate. It makes it challenging to really get my point across if there's something that I need to communicate. It makes it challenging to, like I mentioned, feel that sense of really deep connection that I think a lot of us crave and a lot of us desire, but we have such a hard time finding out there in the world. And it was up until probably even like just a few months ago where this feeling of, I don't know if I'd call it loneliness or sadness. There's probably a little bit of shame with it also. Up until a few months ago, I felt that almost every day. Just seeing people exist in the world around me looks like it's really easy for them. And then for me, constantly feeling like I'm trying to keep my head above water. I'm trying to make these various connections. And then constantly getting that feedback around me that I'm not being seen for who I am. Instead, I'm being seen as a projection of what the other people see, and not really being seen for me. And then I did a lot of work around that shame and therapy, and now I'm kind of at the point where I realize that being misunderstood is kind of freeing. Of course, I still get sad and I still feel that loneliness every once in a while, but being misunderstood constantly over and over again means that we get to live our life in a way that's meaningful to us. We don't have to live our life for other people, because when we try to live our life for other people, we're still constantly misunderstood. So what's the point? Instead, I find that this feeling of being misunderstood and being misperceived all the time gives me this sense of freedom that if that's gonna happen no matter what, I might as well just do what feels best for me. Of course, as long as it's out of love and out of compassion, but as long as I do what's best for me, that's really all that matters. Because people are always going to misperceive, people are always going to judge, people are always going to misunderstand, no matter what. And so maybe just think about that today. Am I showing up for other people to try to be understood? And I think there is definitely a time and place to want to be understood, especially when we're going through hardships and challenges. I think that's normal. And also, on the day-to-day, let's just live our lives how we want to in a way that's authentic and meaningful to us, because we're going to be misunderstood no matter what. So maybe try to find a little bit of freedom in that and ask yourself, how am I showing up? Am I showing up to try to get that external validation from someone else? Am I constantly trying to grasp onto that, constantly trying to seek that, something that we'll never actually feel? Or should we start getting that validation from within ourselves and really look at, how can I show up today in a way that brings me joy, that brings me peace, that makes me feel authentic?